The truth is, you are not nearly as open-minded as you think you are, and neither am I. It's okay. And that's what I want to talk through in this video. I'm on a trip. I'm sitting here from a hotel room, and I was thinking about this actually on the flight yesterday, and I wanted to put it together in a video and share it because I see this with a lot of the people who watch my videos and interact with me, and they bring up different problems and challenges and things that they're working on and how they're trying to make some difficult decision or solve some problem or create some new product or possibility, or they're one of the people on my channel who are involved in one of these national treasure hunts and they're trying to solve a clue or something like that. And oftentimes, all of us, we have this sense that we are really open to following the clues wherever they lead. And we're really open to all the possibilities. But the reality is that's not true for the vast majority of us. And so maybe there's some exceptions out there. Some of you who are watching this, maybe you are the rare exception. But if I'm really honest with myself, and if you're really honest with yourself, I think we'll actually find a different story that will see the truth. And the truth is that we are not nearly as open as we think we are oftentimes. So on the plane, I jotted down 5 points that I want to talk about, but I want to start with a story. So a number of years ago, for about 30 years, I served as a consultant off and on. I started as a classroom teacher, and on the weekends and the evenings and in the summers, I started a consulting job. I had my first online presence. I had a blog that became one of the top education blogs on the internet for about a decade, and had a lot of visitors to that, and I would have different consulting jobs that would emerge, and people would invite me regularly to come and to talk to them about how to advance their mission in some way of their organization, how to develop or launch this new product line, how to grow their school, how to improve their school, how to improve their organization, other things like that. And I would come in, and one of the things that I became frustrated about pretty regularly was I put a lot of time and thought and energy into trying to do my best to serve these organizations. And inevitably, most of the things that I suggested never got implemented or even seriously considered. And they paid good money for me to come in and do this work. So why is that? They reached out to me. They saw something in what I was offering. I put it together. We talked through it together. They were excited about it. I leave, and then it didn't happen. And of course, there are multiple reasons for this, and there are cultural reasons within an organization, and there are other kinds of factors as well. But here's one that I actually came to change the way that I actually approached consulting. So when I would walk into an organization, after experiencing this over and over and over again, I would come in and I would say this: let's start by getting your non-negotiables on the table. So I know what your goal is. I know what our shared goal is together. But what are the non-negotiables? What are the things that you are unwilling to change? You are not going to change them. They're just too central, too important to you, to your organization, to keep people in your organization, whatever it might be. And let's be brutally honest about it. And here's what was interesting. Most of the time when I would do this, they would say, we really don't have many non-negotiables, just these couple of things, and they'd list them off about their core mission, not veering away from their core mission, some things like that. But otherwise, we're really open, we're flexible. Whatever can help us advance the mission or accomplish this goal, we are fair game for it. We're open to it. And then I would always come prepared with 5 or 10 examples of things that I knew they were probably not really actually open to. And I would begin to list them. So for example, one time I came into this school, and they really wanted to move forward, and they wanted to be an innovative school, and they wanted to serve their families and their students better. And I said, so what are non-negotiables? And they're like, we really don't have many. As long as it's serving the students well and we're taking care of our people, we're pretty good. And I said, okay, what if we get rid of letter grades? We don't want to do that. We're a school. How could you operate without letter grades? What if we got rid of traditional subject areas? No, we really like our subject areas the way that they are. And then I would just ask these questions. And it reminds me actually of an old movie. It was a movie called The Jerk, and Steve Martin was in it. And in this, he's working in a carnival, and there's a carnival game where you have to knock over, I think it's these jugs with a ball or something like that. And someone comes up and they say to him, hey, so what can I win if I knock over all the jugs? And he says, you can win anything on this wall behind anything. And then he clarifies it, and he says, anything from this top shelf to halfway down. And then from there, anything on on this one shelf, anything on the right side of this shelf, anything in the back corner of this one box in this shelf. And by the time he's done, it's like this tiny little 1-inch by 1-inch section. You can win anything there, but everything else is actually off it. That is how our brains actually operate oftentimes. We start with this kind of idea. We like to think anything is fair game. I am open to all the possibilities. If it helps me accomplish my goal, it's consistent with my core values. Other than that, I'm open, I'm flexible. But that's not the reality. And the problem is not necessarily that you have these non-negotiables. It's that you and I are often not willing to admit that we have these non-negotiables. That's what we're talking about here. We want to make sure that we are being honest with ourselves, because that's going to help us to be better decision makers, truth seekers, problem solvers, and those literal metaphorical treasure hunters. So here are the 5 things that I jotted down on the plane when I was thinking about this. The first one is we think we're open-minded because we listen, but listening is not the same thing as actually seriously consider being open to a possibility. So listening is good. It's good to actually listen. You don't have to necessarily do what the other person is saying. Listening is about learning. But when you're trying to consider some new possibilities and people are putting things on the table, we can feel really virtuous by just listening. And we think that means that we're open-minded because we're listening. But are we actually seriously considering? Are we actually giving it some credit? Are we actually being willing to kick the tires on it and figure it out and see if it might actually work? Are we willing to bracket our assumptions for a little bit and pretend as if we were doing this and if it worked, and play around with it to see where it would go? That's a really important skill. And that's something that we want to be able to acknowledge. Again, it's not the end of the world. If you're just listening and you're not willing to consider, maybe there's some things that you're not willing to consider, and that is okay. But let's just be honest with ourselves about it so we don't waste a lot of time. The second one is we tell ourselves that we're curious, but we mostly explore ideas that don't challenge those core, unnamed non-negotiables. So we explore and we experiment, but almost unconscious or subconsciously, not unconsciously, taking a nap here, but subconsciously, we're really excluding the things that we don't want to consider. And that's another thing for us just to note. What are we not looking at? What are we not considering? Because we kind of have this bias that's getting in the way. And the third one is we call it research, but most of the time we're really just collecting support for what we've already decided. So are you actually doing research, open and exploring, or are you really unknowingly in the process of just trying to gather evidence to support what you already believe or want to be true? Those are very important distinctions. Now, that one I would say is a problem if you're doing that too much, but it's good to at least be honest about it and to recognize it. The fourth one I wrote is, we believe we're flexible, but we can't name the evidence that would actually change our mind. This is a really good exercise to try. Ask yourself, I have this thought, I believe this is the right direction. What would change my mind? What would it take to change my mind? What are all of the possibilities? And if you can't think of anything, and if you can't really be honest and come up with anything that would change your mind, you're probably not dealing with a truth claim anymore. You're dealing with something else. So we want to be honest and open about this fact in ourselves. And then the fifth one is we say we change our ideas about something, but we only really do it when the stakes are super low. So we have this kind of history of being able to name, I changed my mind on this and this, but it was all really small stuff. It wasn't stuff that really took a lot of effort on your behalf to actually change it. There wasn't a lot at stake. It wasn't painful kind of shift, but truth seeking and literal and metaphorical treasure hunting, that's painful sometimes. When we're trying to solve real problems, we sometimes have to make some sacrifices along the way in order to get at the truth. And that's really important for those who are real truth seekers who want to be world-class decision makers, problem solvers. And yes, I know I say it in every video multiple times, those metaphorical and literal treasure hunters. So that's what I have for you from my hotel room here today. I hope you find it useful. Look forward to your questions and comments.